I read your book last night, okay, the draft, and very interesting. A couple of things. I know what your background has been marketing and public relations and that sort of thing, New York City. What made you want to come back to New Orleans? You coming back to New Orleans?
That is a larger metaphysical question. But no, I'm a military brat. So I grew up moving all over the place. However, Louisiana was one of our home bases because we had one grandma here. It's a difficult thing to articulate, but I see it in my clients all the time that are relocating here, where the city gets you. It pulls
Oh,
you in,
yeah.
and it
Gotcha.
got me.
There it is, another one. So welcome.
Thank you.
In your book, it was fascinating that you focused on the listing side. You did finish with the buyer side. The listing side is about, I would assume, your strengths: presentation, how to stage, how to price it correctly, and whatnot. Tell me how that links into what you were doing in New York City?
I like to tell our sellers and our agents at the brokerage that a home is a home until we decide to list it. And then it's a product that's worthy of its own go to market plan. It helps from a psychological perspective, but also from a strategic perspective to think, how would I launch this product? How would I launch this home? And in a marketplace, the current market that we're in, where there are far more homes than buyers, you have to be really intentional about it. So I wrote the book as sort of a manifesto of things I wish that sellers knew before we ever had that initial listing talk. And that was the genesis of it. How does it pull back on what I know from New York? Well, a lot of it is product placement, pricing, packaging. We can't change the physical location of the home, at least not simply. So we have to work within our parameters, right?
Yeah.
But the pricing, the presentation, the promotion, those are things that are within our control. So let's control what we can. That's the core message from the book. And how?
Sounds like what you're teaching, preaching here is to tell a story, a narrative. That you're basically about the home and then sort of, create around that narrative to more emotionally, or to a large extent, emotionally appeal to a buyer with this particular narrative. How much work do you do in staging a home?
It depends on the home. Some homes we walk into, and the way that they are presented makes a lot of sense for the buyer that's looking for a home like that in that marketplace. And sometimes they don't. So it's less about great interior HGTV design and staging, one size fits all, as it is about who is the buyer and are they going to feel something when they walk in that front door. So it depends on the home and it depends on the buyer for that type of product in that location. Each home's different.
But one of the things we don't know is who the buyer is. So obviously it's your taste, because you've represented buyers in the past, you have a feel for what they're looking for. Give me an example of a home that you walk into and it's inappropriate but has potential. What do you do?
Well, first I want to address what you just said, which is it's all a matter of taste and we don't know who the buyer is. That's not true. We can
Oh,
make a very good educated guess who the buyer is. We
huh?
have data about who's buying in any given neighborhood. Sellers can tell you anecdotally who's coming into the neighborhood, but we can look at sales reported records and things like that and get a loose idea of who's buying in any one given neighborhood. That's what we do. That's where we start. So a good example of what would be inappropriate. Let's talk about Bywater, for example. For the past couple of years, we've seen two big audiences doing a lot of the buying in that area. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who lives there or spends time there. We're seeing young first time home buyers excited about the prospect of ownership. Now, a lot of times they're not local and they're moving from somewhere else and they really want to feel like they're in New Orleans. So if the house feels really sterile and it doesn't feel eclectic and quote unquote what a person relocating would think of New Orleans, they're not going to feel a connection with that home. So sometimes things are over renovated. And the other audience that we see buying a lot are people in their 50s and 60s, maybe a little bit older, who are retiring or nearing retirement. And New Orleans has been on their bucket list. And what they want, though, is something that's turnkey because they don't want to take on a project, even if they have experience in renovation, because they want to go enjoy New Orleans. So we're seeing a lot of lock and leave. So what would feel inappropriate is a home that is priced high, but has a lot of work left to be done because those buyers that have accumulated more wealth don't want those projects. That would be one good example. Another example I mentioned earlier was if it feels sterile And like it could be anywhere USA, but it's going to appeal to that younger millennial audience. They want something that feels funky and they're not scared to take on some cosmetic projects.
Well, you just mentioned that price both out. The young buyer that's coming in, obviously, price is going to be huge. And the older buyer that wants turnkey in an old New Orleans home, if it were the Bywater, that would be difficult to find something that doesn't need work.
Work is relative and it's subjective, which I know the book is speaking to the listing side, but the buyer side is kind of, and I'm working on a supplemental copy for agents, but is more what does work mean? Every agent has heard a client say, I don't mind a little work. And that is a red flag in the same way a client saying, I'll know it when I see it, but I'm not picky. It's like, okay, let's unearth what they're actually motivated by. But there are homes and there is movement in the Bywater. And we have set two records, one in the Bywater, one in the Marigny in the past 12 to 18 months. And it's been that latter buyer, this somebody coming in that has accumulated wealth that's purchasing with cash or near like it and fall in love with something emotionally.
Neighborhoods. You specialize in specific neighborhoods, or does your firm do? What do you like?
No, and I don't believe in specializing in a neighborhood. It'd be the same thing as not being diversified in your investment portfolio. And New Orleans is not so large that it's not manageable to be educated in different neighborhoods. So, no, we don't. But if we did specialize in any sort of home or area, it would be the historic core neighborhoods. They require a level of specialty and care. So, it's something that we're passionate about.
New agents. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? New young agents.
Don't get into this industry unless you're excited about leading it better than you found it. Because we're going through a period of tremendous change, and that creates a lot of opportunity if you're career minded. But if you're excited about opening doors, go get a tour guide license.
In an age of Compass, Keller Williams, Remax, et al., the big brokerages, how do you differ and why and who, what type of agent are you looking for?
The type of agent that I'm looking for is somebody that wants to put their fingerprint on what we're becoming. So I don't see us as being a boutique or a small agency on the way to being a Keller Williams. I see us as a startup. That's where we're at in the stage of the business right now. I chose this industry deliberately because professional services is one of the lesser disrupted fields in general, but we're headed for some changes. And I think that that's exciting. So if the idea of being a part of what's next in an industry and the idea of providing clients with excellent experience and the idea of building a career where you call more of the shots is exciting to you, and you want a brokerage where you feel like there's a value exchange, meaning what's my split? I'm not interested in agents that ask what their split is and ours is competitive because that's transactional. I'm looking for agents that go, I know what I'm paying my broker, and I feel like I'm getting that value back and more because that's what I'm building.
Speaking of which, the NAR has done some things to the industry and especially to buyer agents. What's your feeling about buyers agents now with the written agreement?
I think that a lot of agents that are watching this are going to be doing so from a place of quiet fear because they're not in a brokerage or don't have coaching or somebody in their ear that presents it as an opportunity. I am excited about the change because my agents are earning more on the buy side. Up until now, a random listing agent decided what you were worth before your buyers even stepped foot in that house. And it wasn't negotiable. It wasn't. I've never gotten a purchase agreement that said, I see the MLS says 2%, but I'm worth 3%. I've never seen that. And now, just like listing agreements have always had the opportunity to present their value in exchange for compensation, buyers agents are able to do the same thing. They're able to declare what they're worth, and their client is the one that gets to decide whether that's of value to them or not. And so I get really excited when I see a closing document come back as a broker where my buyer's agent's getting 3% and the listing agent's getting 3 or less because I know that my agent showed value.
So are you getting this mainly on the offer, getting it back from the seller side, or do you have buyers that you're willingly put up a percent or two or three?
I've never had a buyer that hasn't been willing to put up a percent or more. by the time we get to closing. And that is a testament to the experience that our agents provide
Yep.
the buyer. I don't know, two-thirds of the time, the seller will pay a percentage. All of the time, the seller's contributing something towards it. But I've never had a buyer get to the closing table and say, you weren't worth it.
So, your role as a broker in your firm, tell me what a day in the life is like in your firm.
Day in the life of our firm is never the same as the day before it, but the themes are the same. I spend time removing obstacles from my agents. That isn't a help desk. That is looking for patterns of things that might be slowing them down, causing confusion, or not enabling them to be in front of their clients as much as they would like to. So that's a huge part of my day. Another big part of my day is thought leadership. What content are we putting out that can help the clients have a better experience, help the clients find us in the first place, that sort of thing. And then a third part is community oriented. So whether that's creating content for a broader community like this or literally getting out and involved in the community, that's those are the three big things that I do on a routine basis. And I like all of them. So it's a great gig.
If I'm a buyer, how do I find you?
Well, I'll start by saying that 100% of our leads are organic. We don't pay for any leads. I don't subscribe to any lead services. So, I tell my agents when I started the team, and I only had 3 years in the business, I make six figures off of strangers on the internet. So, how did people find us? This is another tie back to my experience in marketing and advertising. My goal is to get more and more inbound leads that are quality, that are motivated, and we're having a lot of success in that. And that is why things like content are so crucial. It's not just there to be a Girl Scout and put out good stuff. It also leaves a trail of breadcrumbs for people to find us. And one of the interesting phenomena that happens to me and now to our agents is when I meet with someone for the first time, it's because they've reached out and said, do you have time to meet with me? Whether it's on Zoom or Google Meet or in person at a cafe, they're asking us, can you work with me? And it's because they found us on a number of channels, usually on a
Right.
screen like we're on.
Yeah, basically looking for stuff in New Orleans or trying to figure out what to do. When that call comes in and they see you, give me an example of the conversation they have with you.
The initial conversation.
Yeah, I'm on the internet last night and you popped up with a cool
So
name.
a lot of that comes in through social media. So we might get a DM or we might get an email or a text. And so we're monitoring those channels. We also have a booking widget on our website and we get leads in through that. So when we get that, the first thing that we do is respond as soon as possible, coming from a place of curiosity. I'm not trying to lock them into an exact time or date right away. It's why I don't love booking widgets. It's sort of like, how'd you hear about us? Why are you excited about moving to New Orleans? Talk to me about it. And the goal of that is to set up a time to do a more formal intake where we ask more about their goals. The language that we would use in that initial DM would be, I'm so excited that you reached out. We absolutely have time. I'm looking forward to learning about your goals. Tell me more. And then here's 3 times that we're available. That's kind of how those initial conversations go. And then that next conversation is either had on screen face to face or in person face to face.
I would think that a lot of this would be done before I even hopped on an airplane to come down.
A lot of it
Ma-
is done on screen or on phone, but I try to steer on screen because I feel like those
Yeah.
connections are stronger, like we're doing right now, than anything can be done on a phone call.
How about the retired couple from New York that just wants a little warmer climb? They love the Jazz Fest. They come year after year, and now they want to buy a home. They know enough about New Orleans to probably be dangerous. And then they basically get in contact with you. Is there any, obviously, there have to be differences in approach?
There are increasingly referrals are coming in. We just helped this couple that's similar to what you're describing from California buy a great Queen Anne on Voucher uptown. They came to us through a friend of the family, but that friend of the family is based in Alexandria and had been opening our emails forever. And she was in her late 80s. Email plays a role
Yes.
a little in a different way than Instagram does, and it reaches higher up in age and it's valuable. But another is somebody that has been following me in a Facebook group forever. She's coming from the tri-state area. She's returning to New Orleans. She wants to buy a Pierre de Terre. So there are people of every demographic on Instagram as well.
So, what are your channels for getting business? How do you go out there to lure business in?
There are many channels that we operate on. I'll list a few and then I'll tell you what to do with them. We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we are on YouTube, we are on Threads, we're in a number of different places. Email as well, we talked about, and that's not something that is considered social media, right? And that can sound like a lot, and it can sound intimidating to an angel or to somebody watching this that goes, Lisa, I don't have media background. I don't know where to get started. And what I would say to that person watching this is you don't need to do any of those things. You need to pick something that feels good and organic to you that you can get excited about multiple times a week and show up. In leveraging these channels, all I'm really doing is showing up on someone's screen. But somebody else who might not be comfortable on screen can show up at the dog run, can show up in philanthropy, can show up in other places. We're just leveraging those channels to do that on screen. My reason is not only my background, but when I first got my license in New Orleans, which by the way was 2019, I was told, call everybody that you know, work your circle. And I had moved here 3 years prior and worked in consulting where I was on airplanes all the time. I didn't have a graduating class somewhere in New Orleans to work, but I did know how to work the screen. So that was my sphere, and that sphere has grown tremendously. So I would just say there are so many channels you can choose from. Ours may not work for you, but experimenting and knowing what you can commit to one or two things and show up.
But you want to grow your business, I assume. What are you looking for, a personality type or background for a young agent that might make it in the business? I know this is a tough business to make it in.
I'm looking for adaptability. I'm looking for curiosity. I'm looking for attitude over aptitude. Aptitude can be taught. I want somebody that wants to leave relationships, their business better at the end of each week than it was on Monday. Somebody that is committed to doing this full time, even though that feels like a big risk when you're just getting started out. But that commitment makes all the difference. And I didn't understand that until I let go of what I was doing prior to real estate. I mean, I was doing consulting. I was $20,000, a month in checks and more. And it was very scary to say, I'm going to say no to that and just go in. But going in with eyes open, it makes all the difference. But the attitude is the most crucial thing. And I wouldn't limit it to new green agents. One of the last agents that just joined the brokerage is 55 and he's had his license on and off for 20 years and he's flourishing. So
Wow.
that attitude is not limited
Is
to
he
people.
flourishing with you, or did he flourish before, or are you just basically taking him at a point in his life that he's ready for what you're preaching?
He's flourished before and he kind of hit a lull and he's flourishing again. And his reason that he tells me is because he feels like he has a creative accountability buddy. He comes in at this and all the to-do list things he's been meaning to get to. I want to try this approach, that approach, market this, sell this, get involved. He's finding the energy to do that because he's in a place that values it and encourages it and shows up with it.
What you were describing in a person that you would looking for to join your group and might succeed in this business, that sounds like the perfect person. I mean, isn't this generation a little bit self-centered for what you're talking about?
Which generation, Jim?
Good question, Lisa. Good question. Which generation? Any? It doesn't matter. I mean, look, I'm not young, so any generation, quite frankly, you're talking about.
Now, I'm an elder millennial, and there's a comedian that has a bit that's like, gather around children and listen to the story of the landline, like, so
Yeah.
I'm the Oregon Trail cusper that like didn't have a laptop until
Wait,
college. We're there,
okay.
we're in it, right? So there's a whole lot of agents of every age right now struggling because they were working hard in different ways before, and then 2018 got a little bit sticky and slower. 2019 did, and then COVID hit. And then all of a sudden the floodgates open. And it was like, if you could get a listing, you could have a deal closed.
Right.
Everybody was moving left, right, and center, and everybody got kind of fat and happy and lazy and kind of forgot some of the steps that it takes to develop leads, to nurture them, to treat them like humans and not leads. And so I think that that's systemic across a lot of people in the industry, regardless of age. I hear over and over again, agents show up at brokers opens, and I don't stay at them very long because it turns into this conversation of woe is me, the market's terrible, whoa.
It's all
And
about
it's
me.
all about you.
All about
It's all
me. I
about
mean,
you.
I hear it. I hear it all the time too.
I challenge my agents. I'm like, if you're thinking like, where is my next deal coming from? You're not going to make it. You need to wake up thinking, who can I help today? Who's on my list that needs something? How can I get it to them? Not where's my next lead coming from? Because that paying it forward in any regard is going to make you exceptional and stand out with people. And also, it feels good. Sitting around wallowing around in these conversations, yuck. But one thing I keep hearing over and over again is, oh, it's a terrible market. It's a terrible market. Isn't it a terrible market? And when you look at it, something in the metro area, like roughly 50% of listings are closing. And to me, it's glass half full. Are 50% of deals not closing or 50% of deals are closing? Why don't we figure out what those deals have in common? What can we learn from them? How can we position our client to be the next sale or the second sale instead of nothing else is selling? And if you're not thinking like that, it's time to consider another vocation because you're
Very
not
good.
thinking about your client. They didn't hire you to tell them, woe is me. I don't know. Nothing else like your house sold. They're hiring you to say, we're getting this feedback. Let's pivot. I've got an idea. We want to make sure that you're moving first. Trust me on this. Let's go. I don't know if you golf. I know that you say a small degree of change
Yeah,
can
at 300 yards is a long, or it's a long way. Or 100 yards, that's a long way. You're right. If it's offered at the beginning, in interviewing folks, that's one of the things that I hear all the time. Really hard to find people with that kind of empathy, where they're feeling other people's needs, pain, whatever, and their desires, where they can really put themselves in those shoes. So if you're teaching that, that's a wondrous thing if you're finding people that can follow that.
The big thing is just ask better questions. Ask better questions. But they're sending out emails that are saying, are you hearing these concerns from your clients? Here's the rebuttal script. And that has two issues with it. First of all, it's not them focused, it's not client focused. It's gotcha, client. Haha, what do you got for me now? And the second thing is it's not good for the agent because it creates this game of I'm going to date myself here, Jim. Like pong, boom, 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 boom,
Oh
boom.
yeah,
And now you're in an intellectual debate or you're causing friction the client doesn't want. That's not what they hired you to do. So if a client, I wouldn't have a list of rebuttals for a client. I would have a list of questions to dig deeper to understand where the concern is coming from.
absolutely. It's all about the client. I mean, that's the hardest part, is to get people to understand that. It's not about the agent. It's not about the lawyer. It's about the client. We're here to serve. Let's talk about New Orleans. New election, things are happening. How do you see it? I know you have a bright side of everything. So tell me about New Orleans a little bit.
I try to keep a bright side to everything. It helps keep me sane and moving forward. Cautiously optimistic, I guess,
Okay.
is the best way to be. It's too early in the new phase of elected officials to really know who's going to deliver on what they promised. And I think that's the biggest thing to wait and see on. I mean, I tell my team, the number one issue that people have with real estate people and
Mhm.
sellers, salespeople in general, is trust, right?
That's
And I tell my team, I'm like, trust is a promise that's delivered on over time. So if you want to establish trust, make small promises and deliver on them. I'll get back to you by Friday and do. So I'm curious to see where New Orleans is going with the promises that have been made.
Well, tell me the things that you like about it. You came here and it's stuck, and how you can advocate with your verbal and nonverbal about the couple from Chicago that's only been here for one Mardi Gras. Your enthusiasm, which keeps you going in New Orleans.
So when I moved here, people were surprised in New York. You're moving to New Orleans. Like, I like to visit there. I don't know if I can live there. And what I told them, because of course none of those people have an experience that expands much beyond Bourbon or maybe Magazine Street, right? Is the people in New Orleans are both interesting and interested. You can live in markets like New York where people are interesting left and right, but they're very self-focused. And you have to be to get your ear pods on, your blinders on, and get to work. You have to be. That's not a slam on New York. That's just a reality. I lived there 12 years. But here people are interested in others. You could be standing in line to pick up your prescription at CVS and strike up a conversation with a Grammy winner and not even know it. And that's remarkable. There's not a similar sense of ego. It's community focused. I think that a lot of that comes from hardship and necessity. At least that's my perspective being a military kid, because it's the only other place that I've seen it. But it's wonderful. And it's absent in a lot of places, but not here.
Do you have in your group mostly people that were born outside of New Orleans, or are you looking for locals that are third and fourth generation?
Both, because both are going to serve our clients best. You got to kind of understand it, and we benefit from hearing from each other. One of the things that I used to have a chip on my shoulder about being a transplant, right? It's a dirty word. You weren't born here. And then I'd say, oh, I'm a military kid and I'd get a pass. Or my grandma was born in St. Francisville and I'd get a pass, you know. But and now my family moved here after the Revolutionary War, well, to Gonzales, but you know, like I get a pass. But I had a fifth generation New Orleanian tell me, thank you that you're here, because we need both. And oh, by the way, I mean, we're a port with a T city. There's always been migrations of people. And
So
what I love about that and about the city is I think it creates our layers that are so good. People say the gumbo, whatever, you know. But the city doesn't take kindly to people who don't love it for what it is. I mean, they don't stick around as long. And there's something great about that too. Try it on. If it doesn't fit, you'll know.
absolutely. How should agents explain the changes in compensation without confusing buyers and sellers?
That's super important. One thing that I see agents doing across the board that causes distrust and stress and a lot of work for themselves is over explaining things when they don't need to. I think that when we feel like we have a shortcoming, we feel the need to flex by showing people how intelligent we are, how much we know. And my advice on the buyer's agreement is the simpler the better. This document outlines what I'm obligated to do for you legally and ethically and how I'm compensated. I get paid X only when we close, and I'm going to push like hell to get the seller to cover as much of that fee as possible. It's that simple.
Can I go into your agreement?
Yeah,
Exclusive or non-exclusive?
exclusive.
Revocable on short notice or long notice?
I mean, yes, short notice, you can fire us. And I tell people that. I mean, I don't know how I'd keep them anyways, realistically. And would I want to keep somebody around against their will to buy something as important as property? No. I,
When you have a showing, how long is the lasting period after you're terminated? In other words, if you've shown them houses, do you have a period where if they buy one of those houses, they owe?
yes, we do, but we've never had to enforce anything or
Right.
follow up with that. And again, you're the lawyer here, but I think, it'd be challenging. And I think that's the wrong way to come about it is gotcha, they're mine. Again, it's leading with yourself. If
Did
somebody wants to
you
break up with me, okay. I don't want to force that relationship, but it's also motivation to not give people a reason to want to take off.
with this agreement, before we had nothing. I mean, all you had was the MLS.
Mhm.
Now you have a requirement by the NAR and the state law to get a written agreement. Of course, it doesn't have to say what's in it. Doesn't have to say how binding it is, whatnot. But in the past, we were dealing with trust alone, just
Yeah.
100%. So now we're dealing with contract. Do you think that's an improvement, or did you like it in the past when we just had MLS?
I like anything that provides clarity. And so I think that a simple, clear agreement probably benefits both parties. When I see these agreements getting 4, 5, 6 pages long, I don't know that that benefits anybody, but I do like that it eliminates some ambiguity. I remember being in meetings as an agent and somebody had shown people places and then somebody else had closed them, and there'd be this brokers pissing match on who had right of procurement, and this makes that all really clear. I feel like, which is good, because what a waste of energy.
Change subject again. Vendor teams. Is I'm looking for an agent that has a vendor team, whether it be HVAC, basically
Mhm.
plumbing, electrical, shoring, etc. Did you do or encourage building vendor teams?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is a huge part of the behind the scenes bread and butter of this business. I think as an industry, there would be no reason for Angie's List if everybody knew and reached out to a good realtor. We should know everything in and out about the homes, not ourselves, but who to reach out to. I tell my agents, think of yourself as the quarterback or the conductor of a symphony. And you're orchestrating stuff, you're helping make it all happen, but you need specialists from everything from law, you guys, obviously great, and
Yep.
thank you. We love
Yep.
working with you, to HVAC, to softer stuff like where's a great coffee shop by listing, or do you know a good dog groomer? Like we're in the business of home and people, not just a transaction on plots of land, right? Maybe commercial gets a little bit more that way.
But on the residential side, you're dealing with an old city that's made of wood mainly. I've always thought that if you abandon the city for 15 years, it would be termite mulch, period. I would think that your vendor teams would just be absolutely essential because these things decay practically in sight by the day. Because I've owned these homes. I'm not young, and I've owned these, and I live in uptown New Orleans, so it's wood.
We have a big role in that and play an ambassador, especially to people that are new to home ownership or new to home ownership in New Orleans. I am a part of several bigger groups of agents nationally. And I hear things in those channels like, did the home pass inspection? And I just think like New Orleans, there's no such thing. We use inspection. Like I wish there was an inspection before marriage, right? Like, let me know all the warts and all, and then I'll tell you if I'm willing to accept it. But also knowing that most things can be fixed, which is refreshing on a home. People aren't always that way. It's just a matter of math. Am I willing to spend X? Is the seller willing to spend X? How do we get this done? And so the vendor is not only crucial to the industry, but especially the people that are relocating here, because there's a lot of people that don't deserve trust. And knowing who can get the job done and for a reasonable amount of time and money is important.
Not only that, getting them out there when you're at inspection periods are pretty finite. Depending upon the market, whether it's buyers or sellers, you can get yourself in trouble real fast if you can't find the HVAC guy and Monday's a holiday. The other thing is, do you encourage relationships with your buyers and sellers after the deal is closed? Because in these old homes, they bought this beautiful home in the Marigny and it's all wood, that they're going to have needs. Do you follow up with them?
It does. The relationship doesn't end at the closing table. And that's a really good practical reason why. But furthermore, I actually love connecting my clients to each other. And that becomes fun. If I see a wave of people like in COVID that were coming from Manhattan, for example, it's like, who else just relocated here? Because New Orleans, it's almost like a graduating classes when people move here sometime, where you hear for this era and people will remark on things that happened in time, right? Like, okay, so you didn't go to school here. Were you here for this storm? Were you here for this major event? And that's how people relate. So I love doing that. And one of my favorite closing gifts when buyers allow me to do this, which is often, is a housewarming party, especially for somebody that's new, and introduce them to key people in their neighborhood or creative people that have similar interests or other clients. It's a lot of fun. And we treat open houses the same way. We don't just put a sign out and have some stuff from Rouse's. We treat them like events and they benefit. So there's a reason to continue being friends with us as well. Not just that it's good business, but all the relationship talk and real estate. Like we enjoy it, and so do our clients.
You ready to play a game before we leave?
What's the game?
Okay. How about a lightning round?
Go for it.
NAR. One word. First thing that comes to your mind.
One word. UGH.
Okay.
Meth is another word. I don't know. Go ahead.
All right. New agent at a buyer meeting.
Curiosity would be my one word. Come with curiosity. Seek to learn and understand more than pitch.
French Quarter.
Fun.
Marigny.
Love. That's my home.
Mine would be parking. Okay.
Parking's a great feature for the Marigny. Yeah.
Streets in New Orleans.
Wild.
Mountainous would be mine.
Really enjoy getting to know you, Jim. I would say that the book that you read the manuscript for is out on Amazon December 1st. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, that's coming up.
It is.
Who's going to get that book?
Who's going to get that book?
The book doesn't talk about all of your secrets for sure, but it just gives a great overview of where you're going. And I thought it was purposeful.
It's available for anybody that more critically about in their home before they start. The sooner the better. People will tell me, Elisa, I'm thinking of selling, but probably not until the summer. No, and it's like, now's a good time to have that conversation. And then enabling our agents to have those conversations and get them to clients as well. And then if our agent reads it and feels like they're nodding a lot, call us. We'd love to work with you.
Where can we get this book?
Amazon on December 1st. Prep to
Oh.
sell. It's on there. I'm really pumped.
I can get it on my Kindle?
You can get it on your Kindle, soft cover or hardcover, so whatever you prefer to do. I haven't narrated it yet.
Okay.
But we'll see. But you're right. It doesn't have all of our secrets. I started and stopped this project so many times over the past, I don't know, 18 months because it never felt finished. There's just so much more that could be put into it. We handed out a manuscript like you got to agents at an agent appreciation event we did, which by the way was cross brokerage, which I don't think anybody's done as a brokerage for people. I did that with the intent of getting real feedback. It got passed around a lot. So what you're going to see on Amazon is almost identical to what you read. I said, let's just get out the leaked copy now, because otherwise I could be writing this until I retire, which I hope is a very long time from now. We do our meetings for our team meetings on Tuesdays, and they're always interactive coaching. It's not here's a Cutco sales rep, no offense, Cutco.
You have an open invitation in your book to come to that meeting, right?
We have an open invitation. If you are interested in real estate, if you are interested in being a part of the brokerage, come see what it's like.
Well, Elisa, love your name. It's perfect. I've noticed you from the get-go. Great interview. And I think you guys are going places, I'll tell you. I was impressed with the book. Here we go.
I just want to say I really appreciate this, Jim. I really appreciate you guys. There seems to be a lot of shared values, and that's refreshing.
Yeah.
So thank you for the opportunity. The opportunity to be on screen and you know, all that, but to get to know you better.
One of my lightning questions I wrote down, which I didn't ask you. Example of a good agent, great ones. I have both. And the best agent I ever had was out in my Park City, Utah. And he was Coldwell Banker. He always had my back, always. And I bought, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 properties with him. Just an incredible example of an agent that always had my back. When the inspection report came out, he would be calling me before I even called him and said, "You got to move on. I'll find you something else." It's that kind of relationship and that's just me.
Where do you see things evolving in New Orleans and in real estate here?
My roads are being fixed, 50 years, these roads, and they're spending money. I see people working. I like that a lot. I see, you know, a lot of new building with young people that came in through Katrina, and they're still here, basically renovating. Our tax title division is rocking and rolling with these, you know, these tax title properties that builders buy for, you know, for nothing, and then they improve them greatly. I see neighborhoods spreading out where they used to be. This used to be a very big port city around the turn of the other century, from the 1800s to the 1900s. This used to be a huge city, and some of those neighborhoods I see coming back. I don't want much from a mayor. But if you just give me infrastructure and just do your job, that's all I really care about. So I am bullish on where New Orleans is going forward. I hope that the next mayor basically continues that rather than a lot of show, but not a lot of substance. I want to see my streets fixed. I'd like to see the electricity go below ground. I'd like to see more high-speed internet. I'd like to see things like that. I think we're moving in that direction. The little blue bicycles, I'm told, are all in the Mississippi River, so I don't see those anymore. At any rate, so I'm pretty bullish on New Orleans, where it has been going for the last 4, 6, 8 years. And I'm hoping that it continues with that. What I am concerned, though, and I think it's really a big deal, and you might want to think about this for, you know, a future, you know, essay or books, is your vendor team. These old homes dissolve. They truly dissolve. And agents that can basically help me after I've bought, you know, with a vendor team. Hey, Jim, the electrician we use, can you give me number? I think that's huge in New Orleans, because this, like I said, again, I think this place would be termite mulch in 15 years if it was abandoned. So
a lot of what you're talking about, for example, that is stuff that we do that I take for granted as being something that everybody does or that everybody expects. And I am enough of a overachiever that I don't see myself as here. often when it's true.
I mean, it's like it's after you've closed that a lot of this stuff comes up. On the front end, we're inspecting to buy, and the inspectors understand it. I mean, none of these homes are perfect underneath these old raised homes, and so they do get sold. But I have a home in Park City, Utah, with the average humidity is like 20%. And you can go 20 years and have not your house is the same. Even the paint looks the same. So so this is a dynamic city when it comes to fungus and rust and things like that.
Thank you for reminding me of this. I can't say that enough to our buyers, that we are legitimately here for you after you close. I had a young lady who will remain nameless at an address, and she bought it several years ago, and she bought it at the Heights, but it's small. It didn't devalue that much. But I wish she had reached out and done, because we talked about all of these projects that she wanted to do. She was going to do a YouTube channel. Call me, I've got vendors. Call me, I got vendors. Some people, you can say a lot of stuff too, and they're not going to call you. But I feel like we can't say it enough, because she made such poor decisions over a small amount of time of owning the home that when she called us to relist it, those decisions had so devalued the home. I'll give you an example of two. One, somebody told her to paint the whole house white because it would save her on her utility bills. It wasn't necessary to paint the house. I don't know why that happened. And now you're in a neighborhood, and it's in a historic neighborhood, 7th Ward. It was beautiful. It was fun. It was cheerful. And now it's bland, right? And another thing was she started noticing cracks and stuff on her wall and got an avoidance behavior about it. And her foundation differential went from 2 inches, 4 inches is normal, to 7.
Oh, no, absolutely. These places are always on the move, so you're going to get cracks.
Yeah,
and people need to know that.
It was with the drought, and that disproportionately affected a lot.
And windows get out of whack, and doors start sticking.
And the footing wasn't wide enough below the ground. It's not something you can see in inspections. But if you start to see cracks, call your realtor. Like if you need a dog groomer and you're really
you and I totally agree with this. But from an agent perspective, for me being a buyer, occasional seller, I really want to have a relationship with my agent in an alien town where I'm moving into for a job, I'm moving into for retirement, or it's just a vacation home that I may retire to later. Having that person is a big, big deal. So
it's a privilege to be that too. It's my way in some small, and this will sound hokey, but it's true, giving back to the city that I have gotten a lot from since I moved here. Like I keep getting affirmations that I was supposed to move here. I met my husband on Tinder 3 months after I moved down here. Yeah, I now have we now have a 13-month-old child who's a native.
No, what a cutie.
Yeah.
Well, so, look, you and I agree, and next time we can talk about politics in Washington and things like that, or we can talk about, termite people. Give me your good ones. So I would love, it would really be hard to do either one of those, but I would love to have a conversation about vendors, about HVAC, et cetera, and just talk about it and talk about stories. We don't even have to use names, but you can get some great disaster stories about, air conditioning systems. These roofs that they put on, black roofs in New Orleans, that fiberglass architectural tile. Give me a break. Really?
I'll give you 2 things that we can talk about later. You'll remember, Katie, you'll remind us. Number 1, the weirdest thing an inspector ever found under a home. Spoiler alert for this story, so it's on the edge of your seat. It was another inspector.
Wait, alive or dead?
Alive.
Alive.
It was crazy. Like, I mean, it kind of scared the daylight out of both.
I thought you meant a body of an inspector.
So that was funny. And then, what was I going to say? Oh, the reason though to stay in touch with a realtor that has a good bench of people is some of those people are good for a very long time. Some of those people are good for a moment in history. Contractors get too big for their britches. They don't have time for people anymore.
Right.
They bite off more than they can chew. They get subs that are not as good as they were. But realtors, because we're in it day in and day out, should have a bench of people that are good at any
You
point in
need to
time.
have your finger on that pulse because you're absolutely right. Some of them get too big for their britches and they basically don't do good work. They lose their workers. We're in a real period of change, but also having vendor teams is a big thing for me. Anyway, that's just my little deal.
I like it.
Very nice, Lisa, nice to be with you. And
Likewise.
and
Thank
let's
you.
do it again.
Let's do it again.
Thank
I
you.
look, I
All
look
right.
forward to it.